This is Twit.
First quarter results are in for Apple. This was going to be Apple's no good, very bad quarter. Tim Cook, remember a couple of weeks ago, downgraded their estimates for profit. You know what? They didn't have such a bad quarter. They did all right, right? Any takeaways from this Devinder hardware?
$84 billion is okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
That's a lot of money.
They're going to survive. I think they're going to survive.
They'll be fine.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm
They're
just
fine.
calling that.
Not going out of
Decline
business.
5%. You know, we have international sales up 62%. I guess that's okay.
Now, this is the first one where they're not breaking down the individual sales for products, especially for the iPhones, right?
Right. Yeah, this is the first time that they are not saying number of units of iPhones sold, which I don't love that move. I mean, I get it, but I don't love it. I don't love it when any company does that. But,
yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
It's clear you're hiding something, right? And what shame is being hidden right now? Is it lower iPhone XR sales? We don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, in fairness, they never actually broke out by like the model series. Like they would never say you sold this many models of this or this or this. So you would usually what would happen is the mix would be extrapolated based on the like the margin on the devices, and that's how you would figure out. Well, they sold more, the newer devices than the older ones, but. The fact that they're not breaking it out at all, I mean, I think what it indicates, as a lot of people expected, and as their own, pre-quarter, I guess declaration said, is that they're selling fewer phones than they used to. Now, I think that's okay, just because smartphones, we've reached a point where we're at saturation, and the growth period is basically gone, right? And so I understand that if you think the market is going to be basing its valuation of your company on certain growth percentages, in sales, and you start to see a decline, not because your product isn't still popular, but because everyone has a phone and because ownership cycles are becoming longer and longer, then I do understand the idea of saying, well, we would rather not break out these numbers. But I think that, when people were trying to say, oh, well, that's not what it's about, and then, they have to, lower their earnings estimates because things did not sell the way they were anticipating, for whether it was China or pricing or what the reason may be, that just adds credence to the idea that, well, this is a convenient time to maybe not paper over the problem, but to, as you were saying, kind of hide something or make it less obvious what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple things going on too. Like, as you're saying, phones are lasting longer and they're getting better. And we also know, like, Apple's been trying to push up that average sales price with the, the XS and the Plus and everything. So I think that there may be some pushback to that as well. Like, things are getting so expensive. I still have my 10 from last year, and I felt no real need to upgrade. I'm also seeing people go from the 10 last year to the XR this year, which in many ways is a step down other than screen size. So there's a lot of confusion in the product line too, I think. So maybe this year with a full-fledged redesign, we'll see something better.
Cook was asked specifically about the theory that one of the reasons iPhone sales were down 15% this quarter. By the way, this is the quarter that you would see a big jump. This is their big quarter, right?
Right. This is the holiday quarter, right.
He was asked specifically, is it prices? And Cook said no. But his answer was kind of odd. He said the iPhone XS matched the price of the iPhone 10. The XR was right in the middle of where the entry iPhone 8 and the entry iPhone Plus had been priced. So actually, it's a pretty small difference in the United States compared to last year. But actually, if you look at any individual phone, it's definitely more expensive. Nobody buys the average price phone. They buy a phone. And even the XR was more expensive than the base model 8. Which was itself more expensive than the iPhone 7. So Apple has, they've been ratcheting the price up, but Cook seems, at least in public, to be fairly clear that he doesn't think that the drop in numbers is due to that. He does say the price was high in areas where the exchange rate wasn't so good, like China. They also, Luca Maestri, their CFO, highlighted the installed base. And this is something I think you're going to hear more and more from Apple, because what Cook said was, well, we make our phones to last a long time. So what that means is when somebody buys a new phone, they hand down the old phone. And as a result, the installed base is high. And for the first time, they gave a number, 900 million actively used iPhones, up year over year in all 5 geographic segments. In fact, they say it grew almost 75 million in the last 12 months. That's This is very, typical of a company, which is we're going to highlight the stat that makes us look good.
Right. And here, what this also indicates and what they would kind of push towards is to say, okay, this is saying two things. One, look at this huge number that makes us look good. But number two, the big thing that Apple has been focusing on for, I guess I'd say about the last 12 quarters, it's really been about the last 3 years, they've been doing this massive push into services, is that if you're looking at services and they've said, it's going to be, a $20 billion, business on its own or, by this date and whatnot, then that is going to, you can say, well, if we have 958 million, active install base, then you can start to extrapolate the potential of service revenue based on that number. And if that number continues to go up, then that's an indication that service revenue will continue to climb and will continue to grow because you have that install base where you can attach Apple Music or iCloud or, Apple Pay or whatever else you're wanting to kind of, put on it. You have that user base to go after. So I think that it's both the big number that says, look at how great this big number is. And also it's also kind of an indicator to analysts to say, and this is this potential huge target number that we have to get additional money out of because they're in our ecosystem. And as a result, we have the ability to attach, X percentage of services onto this number of people.
It's also why Apple goes after privacy, because I think that as more and more people are caring about privacy, they're going to be heading down to Apple because Apple just has a better track record for that. And so they're going to be doing more and more services that are going to be on the Apple ecosphere. So I think that this revenue is actually going to increase a lot more as people are more aware of what's happening and how companies are misusing, their own data.